Yo, he got the Grey Wolf. No, turns out he's a Turkish ultranationalist. Chatters. I do think I've seen. I never thought I would say this, but I think I've seen enough of a person running for Senate. All right, we're gonna start with the top news story of the day, especially for this community, and it seems for many other communities. Okay, Graham Platner, who is until this past week cleaning up on the main senatorial run, legendary crash and burn senatorial run so far for a Senate seat that is currently occupied by Susan Collins. Susan Collins is supposed to be this like moderate, experienced Republican. She's famous for constantly saying that she is very concerned about what Trump is saying and doing. But of course, she always votes along the party line. You can pivot, just say that. What do you mean? Pivot to what? Yes, she always aligns with the Republicans. She's always very concerned, and she's also always aligned with the Republicans. Okay? Vanity Fair article regarding Platner. Graham Platner, main Senate candidate, says he's removed his Nazi tattoo of skull and crossbones. It's been covered up with some kind of Celtic knot with a dog on it because that's far more in line with my opinions that embattled Democrats Vanity Fair in the wide-ranging interview. Dude, it'd be so funny if someone finds out that the second tattoo, the cover-up tattoo itself is also racist or something. Oh my God, I would lose my mind. Anyway, obviously everybody understands Susan Collins sucks. Any sort of seat that you can put a Democrat ass on in the Senate is good. It's better than having a Republican ass on that seat. Just make no mistake. This has always been my position. This will always be my position. Okay. This is literally what I even talked about with respect to all these pro-Israel senators that are Democratic Party senators, even in the state of California. It's still like on at least some of the other issues, they are going to every now and then behave in a manner that is better than the Republicans. Now, of course, the worst example of this is John Fetterman, who has become a Republican with a Democrat with a D next to his name. And a lot of people are afraid that Graham Platner is going to become the same person. They think Graham Platner is a John Fetterman, and they are afraid of him becoming more of a John Fetterman if he were to win the race. So some people are getting ahead of this. Stop defending a Nazi. You are washed. This is worse than Fetterman, you idiot. I am not defending Graham Platner, and I'm not defending his Nazi tattoo. But obviously, no one is going to listen to me, as they haven't yesterday. I mean, I did a video on this. I covered it extensively. I think it was like for 3 hours or some shit. And people are just going to make up their own minds about what I'm saying, no matter what. I think that there is obviously a big L here. The big L being that proper vetting is required. Proper vetting for candidates like this is obviously required. There are certain things that are understandable as red lines. A Nazi tattoo on your chest is an understandable red line. This is exactly what I said yesterday. And this is still what I am saying today. What the are we talking about? Are you kidding me? Okay. Now, having said that, there is still something about the way liberals are behaving around this that I think is not that bad. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because I think liberals by and large, it seems, have been fed up with establishment Democrats. And if someone like Bernie says, this is my guy, liberals, boomer liberals, who under no circumstances in the past, in numerous other election cycles, would have ever aligned with Bernie and a hand-picked Bernie candidate over someone like Janet Mills, are saying, nah, that we need to do something different. I like that because, as I said yesterday, imagine if someone did not have Blackwater in their CV, in their resume, or a Nazi tattoo on their chest. The sky's the limit at that point. If you had a candidate that had the same platform, okay, or maybe even more overtly anti-American militarism, for example, right? And was a person that did not have a Nazi tattoo on his chest, or a person that also did not do 4 tours and then join Blackwater in 2018, then sky's the limit. And this is what I said as well. I said, seeing a lot of libs defend Platner over the establishment pick Janet Mills because he has left this platform, and it seems like they're tired of the status quo electability arguments of the Dems. Now imagine if you had a candidate who didn't have a Blackwater CV and a totem cough. Now the Blackwater CV doesn't even matter all that much to liberals by and large. And I think that's more so a thing here. Our community in our spaces, on leftist spaces, understandable level of scrutiny necessary for someone who comes from that background, because it doesn't show disdain or distaste for the actions that you took as a part of like a machine gunner squadron in the quote unquote war on terror. Okay, and it doesn't signal that you were very critical of that experience, more so that you were critical of the impact that it had on you and others around you. Okay, but having said that, there's a lot of Marine Corps veterans that watch me. I'm assuming you know that. Yeah, no, I have never been and never will be a I'm going to spit on all the troops type leftist. I think it's stupid, it's silly, it's unproductive, and it's not something that I believe. Okay. Obviously, Blackwater is a little bit different. Okay. Obviously, joining a private paramilitary group, like as a mercenary, after an entire decade of war crimes is a little bit different than just like touring. Okay. Or being in service. So for me in particular, that's a big disagreement that I have with like a lot of people to the left of me on what their methods are about developing a true anti-imperialist left. I've never been that guy, and I'll never be that guy. Now, people will bastardize my position on this no matter what, because they think it's like a defense of Graham Platner in particular, or a defense of Blackwater. It's not. And it's certainly not a defense of anybody that has a Nazi tattoo. But all of these things combined, and then matched up against his background, matched up against his private correspondences on Reddit, paint a rather interesting story. Having said that, it's understandable that a lot of people are like, I'm out. But what I'm more invested in here is the way that liberals are responding to it. Now, we'll see what the polls show. Okay? We'll see what the polls show down the line. But it does seem like, at least initially, that many liberals are saying, nah, fuck that. We're with them. We're riding with Platner. And I think that's very interesting, especially when there is an alternative, a centrist alternative that's 77 years old. Her name is Janet Mills, 2-time governor of the same state. An alternative that was hand-selected by the establishment Democrats. This is very important. Okay? This is very, very important. Make no mistake. In any case, let's take a look at how MSNBC's Morning Joe is covering the matter.
New piece about that race up in Maine, the Senate race. A Democratic candidate there putting the party's interest in younger and fresher candidates through a stress test after his controversial social media comments have surfaced lately, along with images of a tattoo. Nearly 10 years ago on Reddit, Graham Platner wrote about how as he's gotten older, he's become, quote, a communist. He also made disparaging comments about police and minimized challenges faced by military members in reporting sexual assault. As for that tattoo, Platner revealed he has a skull and bones similar to what was worn by the SS on his chest. Platner has apologized, but now appears to be leaning into the controversy. Dave, you got some new reporting on this for Semaphore. What can you tell us?
Yes, I talked to Platner yesterday as this was going on, before he said he'd remove the tattoo, but after he told Pod Save America, he gave them the video and said that people were going to attack him over it. And his argument is that
was also very interesting, because they knew that the Oppo was coming. They knew that the Oppo dump was coming, and they wanted to neutralize it. His team very clearly wanted to neutralize it by going to Pod Save America ahead of time and leak it ahead of time. It's interesting because that means that they knew that this was coming down the pipe, but he didn't actually say, like, that means that there was awareness that this is a Nazi tattoo at that point, but he still didn't actually say that he was aware until, the Oppo was coming out. And I think one of the first things he should have done, it was like, yeah, that this was like a Nazi tattoo. It's crazy. I know. It sounds like 20 years of not knowing that it was a Nazi tattoo. I know you're not going to believe me on this. Unbelievable, because it is unbelievable. Okay. But I'm getting it removed, right? I mean, he did say it after the fact, but still.
He is a different kind of Democratic candidate, and the Democratic Party will suffer if it tells men, he's 41, men who grew up online, who posted some things that they regret, that they're not allowed in politics ever.
I will say, totally amoral, Democratic consultant hat wearing moment for me would be, if there is a way out of this, and I don't know if he will be able to recover from this, but if he does recover from this, that is majorly beneficial for left flank candidates, actual leftist candidates that don't have this fucking insane background to thrive all around the country. And the best possible way to defend against this, this obvious indefensible action would be to say, oh, it's just like cancel culture. I was young, dumb, and stupid. There is one thing that a lot of people are talking about. Dude, stop, man. Just divorce yourself from this dumbass already. Guys, as long as I continue covering this story, if you guys are going to keep saying, no matter what I talk about, like, oh, you're defending Graham Platner, I'm not going to be able to get anything done here, okay? I'm not defending him. You don't have to support Graham Platner. I don't care, okay? I don't care. My job as a political commentator is to analyze the way people are looking at these sorts of newsworthy incidents. Okay, that's it. Please stop being fucking stupid about this shit. Your community can be really insufferable sometimes. The people who are chirping are likely never fucking vote anyway. I know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. Okay? Please stop. In any case, like, even when I put my fucking Dem consultant hat on, if I were to wear the Democratic Party consultant hat on, his response and washing this away or hand waving it away, even if it's like the most severe thing, okay? Because like in terms of running for office, I would go so far as say nowadays, like a Nazi tattoo on your fucking chest and like being an active pedophile are probably the two things that are supposed to fucking tank a campaign. If he can withstand that, that means that there is tremendous amounts of goodwill and capital being afforded to left flank candidates. Okay? Think about what this means. Think about what this means. That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about how, this is Graham Platner is the fucking best. Hasan not bringing up the chat poll yesterday seems like an insincere moment where he's still pretending it's unhinged that he didn't know. No, the reason why I think it's ridiculous that even people in this chat didn't know that it was a fucking Nazi tattoo is because it very clearly is the third most prominent Nazi insignia. And I have talked about it quite extensively. Okay. So obviously there are still plenty of people who in this chat will go, I don't believe him and I will never believe him. I'm not going to defend against that because it's a fucking Nazi tattoo on his chest that he had for 20 years. That's crazy. It's literally the Are We the Baddies skull. It's shocking. It's shocking to me that more people are oblivious to this reality. Okay. But it is what it is. What are you doing? Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
Now, that's obviously a convenient thing for him to...
You're way too online if you think it's the third most recognizable symbol. No, I used to think that. And the Wikipedia page shows it as the third most recognizable Nazi symbol. We looked at it yesterday. It is. Like, fundamentally, it is the third most recognizable neo-Nazi symbol after number one being the swastika and number two being the SS bolts. And we also found out that it turns out a lot of Marines that I had covered before in the past that have this Scout Sniper SS bolts knew exactly what the fuck they were putting on them, putting on their chest. And it turns out, apparently, the Marine Corps has forgiven people for, riding with the SS flag as well. No, the black sun is not. No, the sun and rod is not number 3. You're crazy. Most people don't know what the fuck. No, the sun and rod, the black sun is not the 3rd most recognizable Nazi symbol. No, most people, there's even less people who know what the fuck it is. Anyway, we're not talking about that. Iron Cross maybe, but not the sun and rod. All right, let's continue.
As he's confronted with these questions, he has a lot of support among progressives, including Bernie Sanders, who told 7 Before yesterday he's sticking with Platner. A lot of progressives who think there is a double standard here, that their candidates are grilled and asked to explain away things that are not problems for other people, and also sincerely that people born after 1980 are going to run for office with a sketchy online record. That is how he is trying to package everything.
I was going to say, this is the other conversation that I've been having with people in the media as well, is that they're saying, look, if you don't want fucking boomers to be elected, if you want someone who's younger to be in a position of power ever, going forward, all of their social media profiles cannot be considered a burden, because everyone under the age of 50 has like extensive social media footprint, unless they're like, I don't know, Zoran Mamdani, and have like a clear-cut agenda and have aspirations for office down the line or something. You know, that's such a ridiculous argument. It's just not true. I don't think it's I mean, this is not in defense of Graham Platner. I'm not defending Graham Platner. Please stop yelling at me. I also don't even think his Reddit profile is irredeemable. I think his Reddit profile actually shows his Reddit profile is the only redeemable quality from my perspective, in spite of all of the other shit that has come out. But overall, people looking at social media profiles and making a lot of assumptions, or like yelling at people due to their social media profile, is going to be a much more common thing. Okay.
He said that I'm a real person and this shouldn't be a problem. And the reason progressives are a little bit confident, he has the same media teams, so some of the same strategists as John Fetterman in 2022, as Zoran Mamdani right now. Both of them dealt with controversies. Mamdani's on debate stages renouncing his old tweets. They think there is a way past this, and they frame it all as, I'm only getting this attention, this criticism, because the establishment doesn't like me. Final thing I'd say about that is there's some Trump envy. That is how Trump and a lot of Republican candidates have gotten through scandals, by saying, yes, I'm not perfect. I'm like you. I've said some things I regret, and that makes me a more authentic, normal person. That has worked for Trump. It has not worked for some Trump-like candidates.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, this is a stress test for the absolute worst possible situation. Like, while I am more worried than ever before that even if he were to win, that he is likely to be a very malleable, possible John Fetterman style candidate, in the absence of any sort of alternative here, you're just kind of, Mainers are kind of locked into this. Having said that, okay, this is a stress test, especially because it's the worst possible, most irredeemable thing that you could do. But it's a stress test for whether or not a Trumpian style left candidate can actually overcome these sorts of things that in the past would have eviscerated anyone's candidacy. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets played out. Do you understand what I mean by this? Because, like, this is if the way I see it is, like, if liberals are fucking on board with like a hoorah Marine Corps guy with a Nazi tattoo because he has like a populist, he has like populist associations and he's on like the Bernie flank of the party or whatever. If liberals are on board with someone like that, then a candidate that has a candidate that has like no stains on his fucking reputation, they should be actively going out to battle for. And the example I will obviously use is Dr. Abdul El Sayed. Dr. Abdul El Sayed is another early Bernie-crat, okay? An early Bernie pick, also anti-Zionist, has been very critical of Israel, has not shied away from that, and also simultaneously does have a completely untarnished reputation. Okay? The problem here is Abdul al-Sayed is Muslim, right? So we shall see if it is actually the main driving force for liberals broadly is white supremacy and the assumption that like someone who is a grunt force veteran with a Nazi tattoo is not irredeemable, but someone with a completely infallible reputation with experience in local politics and state politics that happens to be brown might be a bridge too far. That is my big fear here. My big fear is that liberals will look to someone who, no matter how fucking far right their signals are, they end up saying, no, I'm in the tank because everyone else is super racist. Everyone else is super racist. This will be helpful. This will be helpful. You know, like the John Fetterman arguments. And then when there is a really good candidate out there, right, who is also a champion of progressive values, they will just say, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about this guy at all. Those are not the same, and your comparison of them is white supremacy. Wait, what? What are you talking about? I don't think you understood my argument. I'm saying, yes, if liberals look at a candidate that has very similar values, very, very similar policy points, that is also backed by Bernie Sanders, who fucking turn around and say, well, the brown guy that's Muslim, he scares me because I don't think others would vote for a brown guy who's Muslim, versus a guy with a fucking Nazi tattoo who they say is good, then yeah, that's literally racism. What? A gifted brown person is just as much of a risk as Nazi? Yo, I think a lot of what people say about my community might be right. I do think we got a lot of dumbasses in here, man. No disrespect to you, Lamont Mundell, but I think you might be kind of stupid, brother. You're presenting my argument. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand what's going on, man. That's literally my point. My point is, yes, if liberals literally look to a person who is an exceptional candidate with no fucking with no suspicious background, like no red flags whatsoever, as a more risky candidate than a person who is white, who has all of the fucking red flags, perhaps the worst red flag of all time, then yeah, it's a little bit white supremacist. That's my point. That's what I'm saying. If he agrees with you, how is he stupid? Because he's agreeing with me, but he is not understanding that he is just relitigating my point. He's relitigating the point that I'm making, but simultaneously saying, oh, dude, you're being a white supremacist. Anyway, maybe it's my fault. A lot of people are just like half listening and they don't understand it. He's arguing with me by presenting the argument that I'm making. Okay, that's the problem.
They're trying to make it work for him. For
and a lot of hopes they put into Platner as a different kind of candidate running up in Maine. Maybe the kind of candidate Democrats should be. Okay, yeah, no, brother, I don't think you understand. I'm saying it's my fault because you're half listening and I shouldn't take you seriously and I should move on. And you literally demonstrated that again. What the fuck is going on? All right, let's continue. Finding and highlighting in some of these races more relatable to actual voters in the state. What is he saying, though, about that tattoo? He was on Pod Save America, the podcast with the former Obama aides, the three guys, and tried to explain and used a quote that you never want to use in a political campaign. Quote, I am not.
And before you say, this is exactly what a lot of what chat wanted you to discuss for your information. I know it's easily assumed, but it would be helpful to include racism and white supremacy in these talks. We're open to you talking about it more for chat to think about. Yeah, except that person literally is under the assumption that I don't talk about these sorts of issues and that I simultaneously am making an argument about white supremacy, playing a role in the considerations of liberals broadly here. And he thinks that I'm not saying that. And he is accusing me of being blind to white supremacist values by literally just presenting the same argument that I'm making. What the fuck?
Not a secret Nazi. What's he saying about the tattoo?
Yeah, the short version, he got this skull tattoo with fellow Marines in Croatia. He was not fully mentally there when he did it. He never removed it. The discrepancy in the last really 24-hour spin. That was his story to Pod Save America. Jewish Insider reported, his story to Pod Save America included, he didn't know about the associations of the symbol. Jewish Insider reported that somebody who knew Platner a decade ago said he did know the associations. And him now saying that he's going to remove it, that complicates it. It went from something that he was comfortable showing off for a long time and joking about to something that he is ashamed of and going to remove. He had deleted his Reddit account years before entering this race. And that is some of the paradox here. One, he is saying, I made mistakes and that makes me normal. Two, yes, they're terrible mistakes and I'm ashamed of them and need to do something to wipe them out. And again, the reason progressives are saying let's give him a chance here is because this started unfolding right as Janet Mills, the governor of Maine, got into the race with the support of Chuck Schumer. That is how they see this. If it is opposition research, if it is connected at all to the D.C. establishment, no matter what the facts are, it is suspicious. That is how progressives view this. And I've seen very few people in the influential progressive commentary space or the endorsers of Graham Platner say this is a problem because they look at Republicans and say how would they do this? They would maybe apologize. They would maybe reframe it, but they would say this is only happening because the establishment doesn't like me. That is the default. And that was interesting here. The Pod Save America was a platform for him to try that out. He tried it. He said it to me too in a different, I think, more intense way. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, Dave, you make a great point about how the circumstances of these revelations are called into question, although some Dems have noted to me this also might point to some insufficient vetting of this potential candidate in the first few weeks of his launch. Although we should note, I mean, you're making a great point also about how Republicans seem to just plow forward. We did just have an example, though, of Paul Ingrassia not being able to do so, in part because the word Nazi is attached. So this would still seem to be a third rail here. But
I will say, there is a double standard here, but it's a warranted one. Not that I give a shit, but liberals seemingly do give a shit about that, which is that, yes, if someone is fucking signaling that they are a Nazi in private correspondence and they're running for the Nazi adjacent parties' positions of power, yeah, that's a little bit more fucking significant. Having said that, of course, the very fact that he is Blackwater and also fucking four-tour Marine machine gunner, that in and of itself also causes people to understandably assume perhaps there is more to this story than we thought as far as like what his true opinions are. That's it. It's because people are not devoid of context and nuance. Okay? It's just like you look at a guy who says that they are a fucking Nazi and they're running for the Republican Party, like their ambitions are higher office in the Republican ecosystem, then yeah, no shit, people are going to be like, well, you said the quiet part out loud, brother. You know, you're being so annoying covering this shit. Please shut up and do the real news, says cynical bastard. Please stop giving trolls what they want on this story, man. It's so annoying to see you cover it. Yeah, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Let's take a step back. Talk to us a little bit more about this sort of generational clash, because this Maine is being held up, much like the New York City mayor's race, where you have a young Mamdani and an older sort of veteran establishment character in Cuomo. Here you do as well in the Senate race, Mills and Platner. This does seem, these races do seem representative of this real struggle the party is going through right now, post-2024.
Well, one thing Democrats deal with in particular, Republicans don't, is that
also,
they lost.
It is funny when people are like, bro, I can't believe you're just like covering the story that is running headlines today and yesterday as well. It's just like, this is the story. Okay, sorry.
So recently. So if you are part of the Democratic political establishment, you don't have a win on the board in the last year to say this is how elections should be. This is what a candidate needs to win. That influences all this. There's also intervention here of the idea that Democrats are too censorious, that Democrats are the party of cancel culture, especially when it comes to white men. And that is something that Platner is leaning into, that there were nominees for positions in Biden's administration who said things that were controversial, and they got through their nominations. But the party has been losing ground. You talked about J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. It's crazy that they're deploying this valid argument in one of the only instances where it's like kind of understandable to deploy it. Okay. Because like saying, okay, it's a bit of a red flag, guys. What are we talking about? Like, this is crossing a fucking line. That's the only time where it's appropriate to say, I think we're crossing a line here. And yet they are taking the maximalist stance on a valid position against like setting up a purity standard that ends up harming Democrats broadly. The only reason why I think this is like still, and we shall see how this unfolds, but the only reason why I think this is like not, like I'm trying to find the silver lining here. And the silver lining that I'm seeing here is that it will be a good thing for the Zorans of the world. It will be a good thing for the Summer Lees of the world. It will be a good thing for the Abdul El Sayeds of the world that don't have these kinds of insane stains on their reputation, but are still presenting an electability argument with left populist campaign slogans and left populist policies that you are saying you are going to achieve. I hope we can also move on at some point. There's real news going on. We've covered this for 4 to 5 hours yesterday. There's like headline 6, not 1. We've given it enough fuel. We're just repeating the same info over and over again. Maybe I just...
How he's defending some of the group chats. That's situational, too. That's a little convenient who he defends and who he doesn't.
Because the reason why I say this is because the purity standards, Democrats only apply... the purity standards Democrats have only historically applied cynically to the likes of Bernie Sanders. Okay? And liberals, by and large, have actually gone along with that purity standard. They have literally leaned into, oh, Bernie is not electable. Oh, Bernie is this, Bernie is that. This means that voters are looking at Bernie and going, maybe we were fucking wrong. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay? I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this over the one singular instance where it is actually kind of insane that they are saying, oh, this is just cancel culture. It's like some things are valid. I think a Nazi tattoo is like valid and for as far as like cancel culture goes. And I do wish that it wasn't like expending political capital of this sort on a candidate with so many with so many flaws, like actually irredeemable flaws in general. But if he can overcome this, regardless of whether or not he becomes another John Fetterman, I do think that this means that the Democrats are just Democrat voters are absolutely tired of the electability arguments being presented in defense of establishment candidates, in defense of centrist candidates.
But the overall idea that they're sharing is that there are a lot of people who grow up.
That's precisely the reason why I'm talking about this so much, because I think it's like it is a stress test on where the party goes going forward.
Up and they say stupid things, and they say them in public now because everything is online, and increasingly people can find your information even if you delete it. Do we want a society where they're canceled, and do we want a Democratic Party that cancels people and a Republican Party that doesn't? The idea being that men might look, Latino men, black men, white men might look and say, I don't want to be part of the party that cancels you and gets you out of your job and says you can never rise up in your career if you said something stupid. I might have said something stupid. So that is the overall thing they're going for, and they look at a Democratic Party that is more, again, it's supporting Mills. It is more ready to say that if you made these mistakes, you shouldn't be in public office. It is ambitious, and it is very convenient for Platner's campaign, but I think it does tap into something that Democrats are worried about.
Yeah.
How come men keep drifting?
I think Democrats want more shamelessness. This is such a white man take. I'm sorry. I think this is, by and large, a liberal take now. And if this is the overarching liberal take, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, especially when deployed in the direction of left flank candidates. Because let's be real, guys, liberals are shameless. Okay. They don't give a fuck about any of the identity shit. They literally said Bernie Sanders was racist when Bernie Sanders was getting fucking arrested during the civil rights struggle. And Hillary Clinton, as recently as like 10 years prior to her run in 2016, was talking about how awesome it was that she had black slaves on the front yard at the Arkansas governor's mansion. What the fuck are we talking about? These people don't give a fuck about any of this shit. So if they're going to be shameless, I'm glad that they're using the shamelessness in the direction of like a Bernie candidate, a candidate that Bernie hand selected. Yes, it signals that Bernie should have been more careful and more considerate, and it's fucking ridiculous that he just like didn't do enough research ahead of time, and they didn't like see the fat Nazi tattoo on his fucking chest. Okay? But that's my point. My point is that like this shamelessness and the cynical cynical id-pol identity politics deployment was only utilized by Democrats in instances where it was appropriate against their Republican opposition, but then also against their left flank with regular frequency, while they shamelessly hid or moved the conversation away from their own candidates' like failures. How would you do research on that? Dumb take. Wait, what? How would you do research on that? How would I do research on, how would someone, hello? How would you do research on a person having a Nazi tattoo on their chest? I mean, the video was clearly out there, chatter. You guys are being crazy. You guys are being fucking crazy. Don't you check the nipples of everyone you endorse is like an idiotic argument. There are photos. There are photos of him shirtless all over the fucking place. It is a totem cough on his fucking titty. What the fuck? You need to do a full-blown comprehensive background check on candidates. Yes, this includes like, I don't know, looking through the social media profiles. Because look, a lot of you don't understand, but when you're doing a background check, you basically operate like an opposition researcher, okay? Because that's exactly what the opposition research is going to look like. So you have to examine the candidate that you are endorsing, that you are going to stake your reputation on, with the utmost scrutiny, the level of scrutiny that your enemies, your opposition will apply, your opposition will deploy, especially when you are coming out and your first big statement as a candidate is to say fuck Israel. Okay, that's crazy. This is a standard vetting process for both Bernie and his team, looking at all of his immediate family associations, his tours, how he has communicated about his experience in the military. These are things that play a formative role in the way that people will attack your candidate. I think you guys don't know how a lot of this stuff works. Yeah, their social media presence, things of that nature.
How much of it is that we're the party that says, take that episode off TV, don't say that, take that joke out of your comedy routine? Some of this is how do we lose Joe Rogan? Oh, it's because Joe Rogan is fine with offensive jokes and we're not. It is a melange of things going on, but that is where Platner and progressives are taking it.
All right, 7-4's Dave Weigel, thank you very much for your analysis. His latest piece is available.
Regardless, unconditional support for him should be examined beyond his policies, since this same effort isn't extended to progressive candidates with diverse backgrounds. Why are all liberals rallying behind this now? Great question. And I do think it's because deep down inside, they don't give a shit, or they think it might be a benefit. And that's what it is. Okay? That's the argument that I'm presenting as well. That's what I'm saying as well. You guys know, guys, there is literally an early Bernie endorsement, also running for a Senate seat, also running against a lot of shitty establishment Democrats who are super pro-Israel. His name is Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, and I've been an early supporter and a booster, okay? An early supporter of Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed. He's been here. He's been in my house. I've gone to him in Michigan. We've hung out. You know where I stand on this stuff, okay? And yet, he's not making waves in the same way, and seemingly not getting the same level of defense. Now, maybe if there's more of a focus on the Michigan Senate seat, and the Michigan Senate seat, eventually people will start paying attention, and hopefully liberals will drop support in a similar fashion. Okay. Platner stuff is making me appreciate Mamdani more. Squeaky clean, always wears a suit. Just a guy who takes himself and his politics very seriously. He's a brown immigrant Muslim, so he doesn't have a choice about being extra disciplined and careful, but a lot of people could learn from him regardless, especially when it comes to not sounding insane, unrelatable, or even annoying the regular people. 100%. 100%. Yes, if you're a fucking brown Muslim doing politics, okay, You have to be extra attentive. Same thing goes for black people. Okay? Straight up. The more aspects of marginalization you have in your background, the more careful you always have to fucking be. It is what it is. That's just, everybody knows this. Everybody fucking knows this. That's also precisely the reason why no one stresses, no one even stresses Andrew Cuomo's associations or his background. And it's not even a line of attack, partially because he has so many other things that you can attack him on, as opposed to Zohran Mamdani, which they can't find any oppo on. So they're just like saying, well, you fucking hung out with HasanAbi Piker. Google 9/11 Hasan Piker. Like, that's crazy. Can you imagine that being a point of contention in any fucking debate? Like if Zohran Mamdani had a track record of Andrew Cuomo, he would have been ethered out of existence, okay? If he had looked in the direction of a woman, or if he had been even remotely associated with like similar types of crimes in the way that Andrew Cuomo is, he would be gone. It'd be over. It'd be done. You understand? So yes, in many ways, like, you do have to be infallible if you're coming from that background. But yeah, let's see what Graham Platner's statement was after this semaphore piece is over.
Online right now. And
yeah.
Tonight, the mayor.
Here's what he said. Here, he got a new tattoo. He covered it up. Let's see. Let's see what he said.
Hey everyone, Graham Platner here. I want to talk to you about something. In 2007, when I was a young infantry sergeant in the Marine Corps, myself and some machine gunners I served in Fallujah and Ramadi with were on our third deployment. We were in a naval vessel and we pulled in for a Liberty port in Split, Croatia. We went ashore to do the thing that young Marines do, which tends to be carousing and sometimes getting tattoos. We wanted to get something that represented our jobs, our service, fighting in Fallujah and Ramadi as machine gunners. We went ashore, we found a tattoo parlor after a fair amount of heavy carousing, and we found a tattoo on the wall, a piece of flash that looked like a terrifying skull and crossbones. We thought it looked cool, and so we got it. I have had this tattoo for the last 18 years. I re-enlisted into the United States Army with this tattoo, where I was screened for hate and gang-related tattoos. I worked for the State Department as a contractor, where I got a full physical, which included screening my tattoos. I've gone through life with this thing, taking my shirt off, having photographs taken, videos taken. I've been very, very open in my life with the fact I had a skull and crossbones on my chest, because that's what I thought it was. It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. And I
Flash Nazi symbols are fucking insane. Yeah, what do you think, bro? You're in fucking, if you're drunk on shore leaving Croatia and you walk into a goddamn tattoo parlor and you get a fucking flash tat, it's gonna be a Nazi tattoo, okay? Biggest mistake of my life, okay? Come on now. Come on now. Yeah, if he hadn't said he got it in Croatia on shore leave, I would have been like, I think you sought this out and you went to a Nazi affiliated tattoo parlor. Okay. But the fact that he got it in Croatia is the most believable part. Okay. Just like the fact that the U.S. military didn't care about the tattoo is also very believable. But this is more damning about the United States military than anything else, really. Everyone seems to forget that it was a group tattoo. Yeah. The weirdest part of it is he hasn't said any Nazi shit, and he could, especially in this climate. If people are calling him a Nazi, why would he hide being a Nazi? That's the thing that bricks my brain, because that's the only that's the only thing that doesn't make sense in this entire story. Because everything signals that he would be a fucking white supremacist. Okay? 4 tours as a machine gunner in the Marine Corps, getting a fucking totem cough tattoo on his chest, joining Blackwater as late as 2018. All of those things combined, you're like, okay, this is a literal mercenary white supremacist. But then you look at his not public profile on Reddit. And there is not a single, there's like very few blemishes as far as like his statements, especially unexpected from a dude who has all of these things associated. You're always talking about redemption of vets of all wars. Oh my Lord. I'm not doing the veterans can be allies conversation over and over again. I don't want to relitigate. People are just never going to listen to what I have to say. You've already made up your mind. They're baby murderers. It is what it is. Okay, calm down. In any case, sorry, I'm a dumbass. Can you add more context to Nazis in Croatia? Yes. During World War II, you had a lot of Nazi affiliates, specifically that harbored a lot of anti-communist resentment in Croatia, and what was a part of Yugoslavia at the time, and some of those resentments have not gone away in places like Croatia. The Ustaze, specifically, were the Nazi collaborators. And they very famously were dealt with by the partisan forces. They were very famously the Croat partisans, which, by the way, technically Tito is also a Croat. But the Croat partisans basically fucking took them to task. And by that, I mean sometimes sent them directly into the mines and then shut off the mines. Like straight up. They would just like at gunpoint send every Nazi collaborator into a mine and then just blow up the entrance of the mine and just... That's how they dealt with it. Let's continue.
I want to say that was not the intent at all. And the idea that I've been going around with something like that utterly horrifies me. I know that symbols like this can be incredibly damaging to people, and the idea that I've had it all these years and it could have been read like that is incredibly troubling. I have lived a life dedicated to anti-fascism, anti-racism, and anti-Nazism. I think that racism and anti-Semitism are a long scourge on our society and a long scourge on our politics. And I think it has no place in our world. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up. That's right.
Yo, he got the Grey Wolf. No, turns out he's a Turkish ultranationalist. Chatters. I do think I've seen. I never thought I would say this, but I think I've seen enough of a person running for Senate's belly. Enough to last a lifetime. Okay, I never thought that this Senate run would be defined by how much this candidate shows his fucking chest and belly. Yeah, mic explosion.
I went to a tattoo parlor and I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones. It's a Celtic knot with some imagery around dogs because my wife Amy and I have two wonderful dogs that we love a lot. This far more represents who I am now than even the skull and crossbones did, which I thought that it was. This has come up because the establishment is trying to throw everything it can at me. It is terrified of what we are trying to build here. Every second we spend talking about a tattoo I got in the Marine Corps is a second we don't talk about Medicare for all. It's a second that we don't talk about raising taxes on the wealthy. It's a second we're not talking about the material struggles of...
Celtic knot is not that much better? Wait, what? Is that also fucking... Okay, we might be pushing it. Is that also a fucking Nazi imagery? I don't think so, right? No. Yes. Yes. Wait, stop. No. No. At least he didn't get like fucking Nordic runes or some shit, chat. No, there's no way. I don't think so. He should have gotten a tattoo of Medicare for all. He looks like he has a 1919 tattoo on his arm. Yes, he does. Okay? He does. Why do we have to be like this all the time? He does. And it turns out there's a fucking reason behind it. Okay? Here it is. Some have pointed out the second tattoo on his arm with the number 1919 on it. We reached out to Platner's people about it, who have responded with a full picture and say that it's a Trail Forest Crew tattoo, which began in 1919 by the Appalachian Mountain Club. I think, I do believe that there are, incidents like this that obviously make people become crazy because it's like designed. It's designed specifically to make you crazy. Having said that, however, we can't like what the fuck is going on, man? Please. Check my last message. Curious of your thoughts. In my opinion, a lack of World War II education is not a valid defense for not knowing the totem cloth is a Nazi symbol. Is it an indictment of the lack of World War II education, and it only makes things worse, in my opinion? Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I also felt this way when I saw how people reacted to the totem cloth. Like, I couldn't believe it, especially in my fucking community where I have spent a good deal of time talking about dog whistles and Nazi identifiers, specifically the totem cloth. I think it's fucking crazy that people just like are totally oblivious to it. And yeah. But like I said, there's the good and the bad. And the good is if he pulls through from this, even though this is like irredeemable shit overall, if he pulls through on this, like, yeah, sure, Americans are stupid and it's an indictment about like their lack of knowledge on neo-Nazi and Nazi insignias and whatnot. But it also seemingly tells us that when someone comes out and is like, I'm anti-Israel, I want Medicare for all, for the first time ever, the liberal audiences are receptive to the argument, that a Bernie hand-selected candidate is actually more electable than a Chuck Schumer hand-selected candidate. You feel me? You feel me? You see what I'm talking about? That's the only silver lining in this circumstance. That is, of course, if it translates to the likes of Dr. Abdul El Sayed and numerous other candidates like Omar Fateh, and you know, when re-election time comes around for like the likes of Summer Lee and whatnot, because ultimately, if they're just applying this to fucking white dudes who are Blackwater mercenaries, white dudes who are Blackwater mercenaries with a fucking Nazi tattoo, then yeah, that's just because they think everyone else is a white supremacist, so it's good. It's a good thing that he has a Nazi tattoo, and that's really fucked up.
Mainers, as they try to scrape through a system that at its core is trying to rob them. And that's why tonight, I'm just going back right out on the road. We're holding a town hall in Ogunquit, where much like I've been doing for the past month, going around the state of Maine, making myself accessible to Mainers.
He's been donating to progressives for a while, though. Yeah, no, I know, guys, I know. He is insane, okay? His background is fucking crazy. His background is fucking insane. It literally doesn't make sense. If you, like, I know. I don't know what to say about it other than I know. Like, it looks like a guy who got, like, bricked, one-shotted by Bernie Sanders and was like, oh, my God, this is the best. This is the best thing I've ever experienced. What do you want? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. What do you want? Attention? Is that what you want? You want attention. You didn't get enough energy out, did you, this morning? What the hell is going on here? White supremacist Nazis that is also a leftist? Yeah, no, he is the true center. He is the true center. He is the true progressive mind in a MAGA body, okay? Truly.
In their communities so I can listen to them. I can hear about what it is they need to change in our political system. And that is what I'm going to continue dedicating my time.
I'm an Arab who started listening to you post October 7. Your review on the people of Palestine and the Middle East in general makes it slightly disappointing that all of his war activity did not really give you much pause, not as much as the Nazi tattoo did even. Yeah. And I've explained it thoroughly, and I will continue to do so. But considering that the normal position is in American society when it comes to elections, the normal position is veterans are awesome, veterans are good, they're doing an objectively good thing, and we love our veterans, we offer reverence to veterans, and the overwhelming majority of fucking Democrat politicians, not overwhelming majority, but like a good chunk of Democrat and Republican politicians genuinely use their veteran background and their veteran status to talk about how awesome they are, to beef up their bona fides. I would rather have someone who has that experience, who at least has like literally talked about how shitty everything is and how using that experience personally to what? Okay. No, I'm not going to give you uppies right now. That's crazy. She's like, uppies time. Here's the only take. Fuck this guy. He sucks. If we have to support this guy, we suck too. He's not what we want. Just John Fetterman 2.0. It's just in the absence of any alternative, I totally understand why Mainers are like, what are you going to do? Like, I understand people who say, nope, this is like, I understand people who are saying, nope, this is a bridge too far for me. Totally get it. Totally understand it. Especially when, you combine all of the strikes. Okay. You combine all of the strikes together. It's just not a good profile. You're really downplaying how hallucinations played into this, probably tripped heavy on ayahuasca and was like, oh, Nazis are bad. Regardless of whether or not he knew, Graham has the frontal lobe of a bite of a 1987 victim for that tattoo. I think it would make literally more sense if he straight up was caught having a Nazi tattoo back in the day and literally said, yeah, I had white supremacist values, I'm reformed. Like, that makes more sense than what we are experiencing here, where he's like, oh, I'm just a dumb jarhead who got a fucking Nazi tattoo. If he straight up was like, yeah, guess what? I did a lot of fucked up shit. This is what I believed. I no longer believe it. I think it's abhorrent, and I am reformed. And I really hope that people can like no longer use my like past self that I have worked tirelessly to move away from and atone for to say that to associate me with my past self who I never want to be like or whatever. That would make more sense. Do you see what I mean? I cannot believe how much Marines unironically eating crayons factors into this fucking argument. Like, it's just mind-boggling to me. It is fucking mind-boggling to me that like the argument that they're presenting is like, yeah, I used to love eating crayons and don't know very common neo-Nazi signals and I'm a little crazy. I'm a little crazy. I got drunk with some German exchange students in college at 4 a.m. and they decided to get tattoos. So while stumbling around the East Village, found a tattoo parlor and they decided to get Columbia University zip code tattoos on themselves. Drunk dudes do dumb shit. I don't know. I think people are looking at the linear timeline of discourse and assuming the takeaway is that the Nazi tattoo is more damaging than this war service. In my opinion, they're both damaging. No, combined, I think, is like the maximum damage. To be fair, as an Arab, I agree. You can support him without being quick to overlook his Blackwater vet service. Like vote for him, I agree, but his defenders are doing some crazy unnecessary shit to try to whitewash him now. And it's up to him to clear his image, not anyone else. This is the median voter. You must now educate him. I cannot believe how fucking bad the median voter's brain is. It's just, you got to work with what you got, You got to work with what you got, but it is shocking. It is alarming.
Time to. Thank you all very much, and I really appreciate your support through all of this. I will say, it is deeply hard for me personally, but all the outpouring of support telling me.
Just hypothetical, say a reformed neo-Nazi was running with the same policies Mom Donnie, or just very socialistic to be, what? They absolutely had a past of being a neo-Nazi, but claim that they were rehabilitated and want to try and give back for the evil they spread in the past. Would you support them? I'm not making any claims or trying to assert any agenda. This is just a thought I had. It depends. It depends on what they've done since then, what they've done in service of atonement, if they have truly rehabilitated or not. I'd have to literally see this person in the hypothetical. But yeah, if there are plenty of people in this community that have done fucked up shit in the past. There are people in this community that have served prison sentences. There are people in this community that have been veterans, that have toured, they've gone on active duty. I care about what people represent now and what they've done throughout their lives and how they've shaped their perspective, how they shaped their opinion, how who they are now, what they represent now, especially when it comes to their political advocacy currently. And when people say, "Oh, well, what if they're doing it cynically?" This is real. This is a real problem. Okay, what if someone is cynically adopting these sorts of policies? Now, on the one hand, when people cynically adopt these sorts of positions, I don't think for the longest, like for the last, I would say 2 to 3 decades, I don't think you would actually have someone who cynically adopts a left position. It's just not something that you do because you don't get any defense from the establishment. Now, things might change in the future because it does seem to me like the liberal voters, the base of support here, is leaning into the populist left messaging. Okay. But a lot of cynical people would rather take a right-wing stance. A lot of cynical people would just simply take an establishment Democrat position, not a fucking, not a like left populist position where they take on one of the most unfavorable in the grand scheme of things from the perspective of politicians position of all time, which is to say to come out and have your first statement be "fuck Israel." You know what I mean? It's really funny because like from our background, from where we're standing, obviously the number one thing that we're worried about, understandably, even before the fucking Nazi tattoo, is like his Blackwater thing. And I wanted to question him on this. I wanted to talk to him more about his service and what it means to him, and whether or not he actually feels that the American military is like, whether or not he has a genuine anti-imperialist slant and he worries about the victims, or if it's just simply the classic case of like, oh, we got fucked up so that someone could make money. Because like that still is ultimately refusing to reckon with all of the harm that you cause. And I don't even think that will happen at this point. Like, I don't think that is going to take place at all. But what's really interesting to me is that no one is making the consideration of Blackwater. Like, the normies do not give a fuck about that at all. It's just a hyper specific thing to this community and communities like this one. Like, it's not even remotely a question, which it should be. It should be. It absolutely is worthy of scrutiny, even beyond the machine gunner as a Marine Corps, like the tours that he did in Iraq and Afghanistan. If you talk to him, they'd be asking him to condemn you before questioning his service history. Yeah, no, I don't. I think that's just like, that's just video of Bernie being asked about Platner.
The collapse of the American healthcare system, is that right?
I do have a question about your endorsement of Graham Platner. Are you standing? Well, it's something he talks about a lot, right?
Okay. All right, let me just say a few words. Number one, I am impressed that media is so concerned about the tattoo that Mr. Platner has. Meanwhile, as a result of Trump's massive cuts to Medicaid, the estimate is that if we don't change that, 15 million people are going to lose their health insurance. 50,000 people a year are going to die. Maybe equivalent to the importance of Mr. Platner's tattoo. In terms of Mr. Platner, this is a guy who served four terms as in combat. He was a Marine, 4 tours of duty. He was a machine gunner. He saw friends die. He came out of that war, as he has acknowledged, with PTSD, got good treatment at the VA, got his life together. This is a man who served his country, who suffered, who had some difficult moments, who said things that he should not have said, and he has apologized for them. But I think if this country is about anything, it's about understanding that every person, me, you, everybody else, has gotten dark moments in our history, and we go on. I think the issues that Graham is talking about, the need to deal with massive income and wealth inequality, healthcare is a human right, raising the minimum wage are the issues that are going to resonate in Maine, resonate all over the United States of America.
So you're standing by your endorsement?
Absolutely.
Can I ask you about the tattoo? Do you think it's necessary that he gets it removed or covered up?
Look.
Yeah, okay, man. Okay, brother. Good luck with that. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, he meant hung as in they all have big dicks.
Once again, we are dealing with a collapsing healthcare system. As a result of Trump's policies, 50,000 Americans may die unnecessarily every year. And you were asking me about whether or not a guy should get a tattoo removed? Sorry.
He said he was going to remove it.
It's fine for chatters to be delusional, but if you don't think Platner is 10x more electable than Mills, your brain is terminally smooth, you need a neurological treatment. It doesn't matter. Maybe we should stop picking white dudes with progressive reps, not even on some idpol shit. How many black women do you know with Nazi tattoos? Doja doesn't count. Okay, guys, I don't give a fuck about what a person's background is. I can't stress this enough. Okay, I don't care about what a person's background is. I have, as someone who's covered politics extensively for the past decade professionally, I've seen so many people that exhibit white supremacist values, but don't come from a white background. Okay, it doesn't matter. Like that's silly. Former IDF and proud Gaza genocider comes to the U.S. and starts running for Senate, getting motion that says Medicare for all, $30 minimum wage. What do you do? Oh, dude, fuck yeah, I love that. That will definitely happen, by the way, like for sure. That's definitely going to happen. That's one thing I know about. Like dudes who fucking go and do genocide in Gaza. They always are